YouTube, what's going on? HeirofCarthage here. Just want to do a quick test with the vampires. I'm going to take Strigoi because I've been pointing out that he has this anti-large bonus. I know we took him head-to-head with the General of the Empire, and we were struggling to actually win. But let's take him head-to-head with the General of the Empire, and let's just see what happens. Now, I know he costs more. I get it. But let's see what happens if the Empire player were to underestimate the vampires, and Strigoi came well prepared for this fight. So I'm not going to give him any debuff spells, but I mean, let's assume he has Spirit Leech, Invocation, and then maybe there's a unit of Fellbats to help absorb the charge off of the Empire General. How much difference does that make? The cost spend here is pretty close. It's not right dead on, but it's pretty close. How much do the unit of Fellbats play in? Now, remember when it was just Ghoul King against the General of the Empire? It was an extremely close fight. I think the General of the Empire won, and then the other Ghoul King won just barely. And he had to use most of his Winds of Magic to pull it off. So let's see what happens here. Now again, the Fellbats, what they're going to do is they're going to break the charge of the unit, and they can actually be useful at breaking the charge of cavalry units as well. The General of the Empire is going to have his charge basically negated there. And you're going to see it's going to allow Strigoi to get a very nice engagement here. I'm going to wait till his hit points get lower before I try and Spirit Leech him. You can see the Fellbats, of course, they're going to die. They're not a good unit after the charge. I'm actually kind of thinking about pulling them out of combat and saving them in case I need them to break another charge from the Empire. Okay, the Empire General's using his healing potion. I'm gonna go ahead and Spirit Leech him, try and undo some of that. I'm gonna go Invocation into Heck, get the extra armor piercing damage. So I should be able to counterbalance some of that comeback. I mean, again, you can see the versatility of the Empire General here because of the healing potion. Now that the healing potion's gone, though, let's see what happens. Invocation to Heck definitely being a big boost to me there. Let's bring my bats in just to kind of interrupt for a minute. So far, it's looking like the bats can have a pretty big impact on the battle. I'm about to be able to fire up another Spirit Leech as soon as I get enough Winds of Magic. So to me, the bats appear to be playing a big role here because this is a much more decisive fight in favor of the Ghoul King. So I definitely feel like the bats are a worthwhile pick when it comes to the air army, because someone had pointed that out, like, Air, shouldn't you bring bats if you're going to try and take the Empire on in the air? And I believe the answer is yes, absolutely. So I have to use all my magic on Strigoi to make this happen. In a fight with the vampires, would Strigoi use all the magic on himself? I guess he could. It'd be pretty important for him to win. But you can see here a decisive victory versus the Empire General just due to the presence of the Fellbats. So, and then here as he flees, you could take Strigoi and you could go back and attack the Empire army while these, look at these few remaining Fellbats can actually chase him further off the battlefield just to make sure he's gone. So one other scenario I want to look at, how does a Bretonnian flying goon squad stack up against the vampires? So let's say that you're Bretonnia, and you're gonna bring a fairly typical flying goon squad. You're gonna get Leon Kerr. He's got all of his abilities, the beloved son of Bretonnia, blah blah blah, yakety yak. And let's also give him the Sword of Coron, because why not? We're gonna come over here to the vampires. We're gonna bring in Strigoi Ghoul King because of his nice little anti-large. Got some spells here, and let's say that this time maybe I've got Soul Blight, or is it Soul Blight? Yeah, okay, the Curse of Undeath is a better one, but he doesn't have it. So, okay, let's just leave Soul Blight out of it. Let's say that I have 3 Fellbats, and then 2 Terrorgeist. How is this going to stack up against a Flying Goon Squad from Bretonnia, both cost-wise and effect? Well, let's just see. Your typical Goon Squad from Bretonnia is 2 Paladins and Leon Kerr. And we're definitely going to give these guys, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll give them a Potion of Foolhardiness and the other potion, which makes them pretty expensive, but it means that they're going to be guaranteed to get their healing in if the Empire, or if the Bretonnia player uses it right. So spend-wise, more spend on the part of the vampires, absolutely. More spend. But this is that what-if scenario. What if the Bretonnians underestimate the fact that the vampires might try and counter-strike them with the flying air force. What does this fight look like? Can Leon Kerr help best this out, or do they just get wrecked because of the fell bats breaking the charge and mobbing? And I'm thinking that the answer is that they get wrecked. Just my thoughts. Okay, let's take this. Let's go test our luck here. The winds of magic are going to start low, so that'll actually favor Bretonnia. That's a big advantage the vampires have on Bretonnia right now, magic-wise. They just have much better magic. Okay. A Spirit Leech Leon Kerr. Again, the bats just going to help mob enemy units, and it's going to help my Terror guys perform much better. Leon Kerr is going to be in trouble here, as long as my Ghoul King actually attacks him, which didn't look like he was, but I think he is. I think it's something about the bats are kind of like screwing up the animation. Yeah, there he goes, Strigoi. Because I know the bats wouldn't be causing that much damage to Leon Kerr, so I do believe he was attacking. Look at that. Bretonnian unit trying to flee, because that fight's not going well. Leon Kerr is getting beat up pretty bad. Use the extra armor piercing on Strigoi. No need to use invocation into heck. Look at this. Over here, the paladin's already terrified, so he's not immune to psychology anymore because the potion wore off. So this guy's done. And same thing over here, terrified. And then Leon Kerr is getting his face bitten off here. Now, what can Bretonnia do to help against this kind of stuff? All right, now they're going to have archers on the ground, almost certainly. And so if you did see a vampire flying squad like this pop up to try and counter you as Bretonnia, you would want to keep your flying goon squad next to your archers. And as the vampires, that's going to be a problem. You're going to have to determine how to deal with those archers. And it means that you may have to try and one-on-one the paladins and Leon Kerr without the help of the bats. Or you could use the bats just to break the charge and then peel them off as quickly as possible to go mob the archers while you try and win the rest of that fight. I mean, those are just kind of the only options that you have available to you, I think, but you just got to be careful with this. You know, like I said, but I mean, Bretonnia does have the archers. It's something that they have to use to their benefit. Leon Kerr is going to get Spirit Leech to death over here. At least I'm pretty sure he will. Die, Leon Kerr. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, just a couple of flying scenarios I wanted to talk about the vampires. Are they a super dangerous air force? Well, they can be pretty dangerous in the air. They certainly have capabilities, but their air force is very expensive compared to others. Very expensive. And they lack the missiles troop support on the ground. So that's the weakness in my mind to the Vampire Air Force. Other factions can field cannons, they can field crossbows, they can field handgunners, they can field bolt throwers, they can field all kinds of stuff that are going to be able to fire up into that flying fight. Illuminarcs, you name it, they can field it. And so it's going to weaken your infantry possibilities as the vampires. So I do feel like that the flying potential against Bretonnia, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily fantastic, but I think it's definitely feasible, in the sense that Bretonnia lacks good infantry, so you could skimp on your infantry as the vampires, and it kind of makes sense, right? Wouldn't it make more sense to at least try the flying army here? And you all can disagree with me. I'm curious to see what you think. Wouldn't it make more sense to try that flying army, and then my infantry is just more of this kind of stuff, like that Bretonnia doesn't really do that well at fighting, like the skeletons, a couple of grave guard? This stuff would be brilliant. And then if you needed a little bit of extra speed, you could always throw a couple of crypt ghouls on the flanks to go chase down archers. Or you could bring like if you had a little bit of extra money, you could maybe grab like a dire wolf or an extra fell bat or something like that to go after archers. I mean, nothing says that you have to stop at 3 fell bats. You could bring more fell bats, and you could intercept the goon squad and go chase off their archers. But what if they have knights on the ground and you need to try and deal with those? Well, you still got a ton of infantry. You've got spears that you can bring into your build. You know, a few of those, and you should be relatively safe. So again, if we look at the build as I would take it right here, probably something like this. 2 Terrorgeist, and you still got money left over. You've still got things to do here. Probably against Bretonnia, I'd go ahead and take the corpse carts, because these things are going to support the morale of your men while you're trying to finish up an infantry fight. You got a little bit of money left here, spend it as you see fit. Now I don't have any Cryptors, so your bows aren't going to be able to do any good against my Cryptors, and all this Vampire Infantry is shielded. And then the Grave Guard's relatively well armored. The Fell Bats are the thing that's missing here, so I'd probably ditch a couple of those Skeleton Spears. Just keep a couple to help out against, just to protect your Corpse Cart from the Bretonnian Cavalry, and then I would definitely spill as many Fell Bats into here as I could afford. And at this point, I think you start to get to be pretty dangerous against certain Bretonnian builds. Your infantry's not that strong, but you counter their flying squad. You have enough Fell Bats to try and help out afterwards versus their archers. Try and run those down. Again, not saying that this beats Bretonnia every time. I'm just saying it's an interesting counter build that could potentially be used. Maybe there's better variations of it. Maybe you have better ideas for how vampires should counter Bretonnia. Curious to see your thoughts. What'd you think of this? I hope you're enjoying these. I love making them for you every day. You're fantastic viewers. I appreciate you, and I hope to see you back soon. HeirofCarthage, signing out. See you soon.